Hey guys, how you doing? Luna here with a new video for the channel. Hope you're doing well. Today we have yet another review. This time with one of the most awaited albums of the whole year. We're talking about Taylor Swift's Midnights. This is the most recent studio album by American singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist Taylor Swift. The albums that came before this one, both Folklore and Evermore, work as my favorite albums from her. So I was really excited for this release too, because it was pretty much obvious she was already going to change that indie folk, indie pop style that she had in those albums. It was more going back to that pop queen era she had around the time of 2012 and 2019. And I like the idea. I think it was already time for a change. I don't know if I would have liked another Folklore or another Evermore. I think that those albums are just already there and I don't need any more. And that's pretty much what she did. In this album, Taylor went back to that 1989 Reputation sound, you know, with those drum kicks, the synths. And even though that may sound like a good combination, even though Reputation wasn't really a great album, I believe that this has to be one of the most underwhelming releases that she has put up until now. Because honestly, even though I kind of agree with going back to that pop style that she used to have back in 1989, I don't think that it was carried out well. This album has to be one of the most boring and uninteresting track list Taylor has delivered ever since Red. For example, the opening track, Lavender Haze, has to be one of the most underwhelming intro tracks to any Taylor Swift album. Usually in the opening track you have, you know, a highlight of the album. For example, in the album Red, you have State of Grace. That song is amazing. In Folklore, for example, you have The One. In this one, even though the track is not bad at all, you have a forgettable chorus, a forgettable melody. You don't really have that much going on in the instrumental, and that's good for the whole album. And even though the song kind of does a proper, job introducing you to the sound of the album, because this track is really similar to what you're gonna be listening to for like the next 40 minutes, I think it kind of puts you in a mood where you already think this album is going to be a flop. Then the second song doesn't really help at all. Maroon has to be one of the worst and most boring tracks Taylor has ever put out. I don't really know what the appeal towards this song is. I mean, I get that the song has a nice melody, but honestly, I've listened to the album 5 or 6 times up until this point, and I don't really remember much about it. I couldn't tell you specifically what is it about the track that I don't like. I think the biggest sin of the track is that it's so forgettable that no matter how many times I listen to the fucking thing, I just can't keep it in my head. The track Antihero has quite a memorable melody. It has a nice instrumental. I really like the way the Taylor's voice is mixed into the track here, but I think that the lyrics are so melodramatic and stupid that it goes back to that really young teenage Taylor, where I'm the one to blame. Everyone agrees with that. The problem is me. I never liked when Taylor played this part, honestly, but in here it seems even more dramatic. Again, the melody is nice. I can kind of give that song a pass if I'm not paying attention to the lyrics, but the thing is that the instrumental also uses synths in a way that it's so awkward. It's like it has some synths that play for like 2 seconds and that's it after Taylor stops talking. Then you have Snow on the Beach. I'm gonna tell you the truth, I listened to this album for the first time like literally a minute after it came out. I was streaming the songs, and the first time I played this track, I didn't even notice that Lana Del Rey was there, because the feature is not a feature. She literally says Snow on the Beach once and that's it. And by the way, the voice of Lana Del Rey is so mixed into the rest of the instrumental, you can hardly tell that she's even there. And don't get me wrong, the track has a nice melody. I don't really have a problem with the track overall. I can listen to it without, giving too much of a shit about the fact that Lana Del Rey barely, is barely in the song. But the main problem with the album as a whole, is that it seems to be produced on an iPad, bro. It seems like they had Windows 7 to mix this album. The synths that are used here are so awkwardly placed onto the tracks, totally unnecessary in most of the tracks here. The drums, this drum kick patterns that are played in every single song, so generic and not memorable at all, don't match with the same thing that Taylor was doing in 1989. And other production decisions that kind of ruin it for me is this track Midnight Rain, where again, some awkwardly placed synths that have nothing to do with the track. And also, for the chorus, they decided, for the hook of the song, they decided that, the best option was to put an auto-tuned, a lower pitched and interrupted version of Taylor's voice, and there you go, that's the hook. Also, the track Vigilante shit, I don't really know if they noticed this when they were, about to put out this album, but this is the Billie Eilish song. From the songwriting, the melody, to the lyrics, to the way that it's produced, to the instrumental, everything about this song yells Billie Eilish to me. Like, it's so obvious. The first time I heard it, I was like, no way, this cannot be an actual Taylor Swift song. It is, but it's not. It's a Billie Eilish song. And honestly, I was able to forgive the clear Lana Del Rey influence in albums like Evermore and Folklore. Plus, in Folklore and Evermore, you could still tell that it was a Taylor Swift song. You could tell the influence, it was pretty clear, but I believe that Taylor wouldn't be the last nor the first to, take influence from one of their contemporaries. But in here, it's not influence, it's blatantly ripping off a style. Plus, in this song, Taylor kind of grabs the bad girl persona, the bad bitch persona, and that makes me question the whole concept of the album, because remember, this is a concept album, not set by us nor anyone else. This is set by Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift said that this was a collection of songs that worked as a story. A collection of songs that even though they sound different, all of them tell one single story. Together they tell a story. What is the story then? Thinking about all the mood changes and all the narrative changes throughout this album, tell me exactly what the story is, because I couldn't perceive it. Is the story that you're bipolar all of a sudden? Are you Kanye West? But listen, even the bad things about this album aren't really that bad, are just, underwhelming as hell considering all the expectation behind this album. And this album does have some pretty good songs. For example, basically every song in the second half of the album, except for Vigilante Shit. The first half of this album is horrible. I was about to, just stop playing this album thinking about how much of a flop this was, but then the second part kicked and, for example, the track Question has a really interesting melody in the verse. The hook is quite weird, not only in terms of melody, but also the lyrical content here. I don't know, maybe I'm taking this too literally, but imagine that you're with this girl, right? You're meeting this girl, or you have a girlfriend, and she asks you, hey, have you ever been kissed in a crowded room where every single one of your friends laughs at you, but then 5 minutes later, they clap at you? No? Maybe we could do that someday. Maybe. Such a weird thing to ask, bro. I get the concept, I understand, this New Year Eve's kind of kiss. I think it's quite wholesome, but the way it's told in the song, it's a bit weird, but the song is good. The song is really good. Also, the track Labyrinth and the track Sweet Nothing has to be one of the most beautiful moments in this album. They're great tracks, especially Sweet Nothing, which I think is one of my favorite Taylor Swift tracks. It's beautiful. The use of synths in this song is excellent. Great. And the melody is awesome, the vocal processing is awesome, the production is awesome, the instrumentation is awesome. Everything, if more songs in this album sound like this, it would have been better. Then you have the track Mastermind, really interesting song. I think this was more Taylor Swift. It's basically the same type of, bad girl persona that she was trying to do in Vigilante Shit, but this time it's Taylor Swift, not Billie Eilish. And the tracks Bejeweled and Karma are fun, catchy, memorable. I like those songs, I was moving my head to them. So yeah, I guess that if the whole album was at the same level of quality as the second half of this record, it would have been way better, but sadly the first half has to be one of the most painful run times of Taylor's entire career. And it's sad, it's really disappointing, especially because I thought that in this album I was gonna see the same Taylor Swift as in 1989 in Reputation, but this time from a more mature point of view, with a woman that's already more than 30 years old, kind of telling you how it is. But no, I think that the lyrics in this album are some of the most immature takes on heartbreak and love that Taylor has ever released. It's not even on purpose like it was in 1989 in songs like Blank Space, where she was portraying this toxicity, like going into a relationship knowing that it was gonna come wrong. The lyrics and the songwriting in Folklore and Evermore were great, so I thought that I was gonna find some of that in here. Not exactly in the same style, but in the same level of quality. And honestly, even the best songs in this album are not up to the task. So yeah, this album, definitely if you're a Taylor Swift fan, you're going to enjoy it. I'm not saying that this is a bad album, I don't think it is, but it's definitely an underwhelming project. It's one of the most boring albums that Taylor has released, which is a shame. This album had a lot of potential. The whole aura behind the album had a lot of potential. I don't know who do I have to blame for this one. Is it you, Zoe Kravitz? Do I have to blame you? If it is, then I'm not going to do anything about it. I don't want Robert Pattinson to kick my ass. But pretty much, I don't think there's anything else to say about this album. Pretty much, I think this album relies too heavily on Taylor's melodies and don't really pay that much attention to the instrumentation. And when they do, they use it by adding some really weirdly placed synths and some generic drum kick patterns patterns that completely sink the track into this monotone and overall uninteresting vibe that I didn't, it wasn't appealing to me. Even though I love Taylor, I think that she's a really talented woman. I think that this album didn't make the best decisions in terms of songwriting and production and instrumentation. But again, if you're a Taylor Swift fan, then you should definitely hear this one out. If you're not, then I don't think you're gonna like this album that much. But again, you should definitely give this one a try. It's not a bad album. It's not a good album either. It has some good songs. I'm taking a few ones to my playlist like Sweet Nothing and Labyrinth. But apart from that, I don't think there's much to say about this album. Pretty much, I'm giving this album a 5. That is it for today's video, guys. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any other videos that I upload. I want to know what you think about this album. I know that I was a little harsh on it, but honestly, I cannot rate this album any higher. I don't think it was that good. I actually think that I'm being too permissive by giving this album a 5. So I want to know what you think, so go ahead and leave your opinion down below. With that being said, once again, I hope that you enjoyed and I hope that I can see you guys soon with another video. But until then, bye.